So, in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you guys why renouncing and locking liquidity doesn't actually really mean much when launching a token. Obviously, it's going to help with investor security and bringing new people into the project, but it does not mean that you are 100% safe if a project you invest into has both renounced and locked liquidity. And this is a perfect instance for you to see. So I'm going to be breaking this down to you guys in the most simple way possible. Complete layman's terms. You do not need any sort of development knowledge or understanding to get this. And I'm actually going to be showing you guys how to detect this for yourself, so simply that a child could understand. So in this instance, we're going to be looking at a BSC token called PogCoin. And as you can see, it launched a few hours ago and it rug pulled. And you might be asking, how is that? So we're going to look at the LP holdings. You can find the LP holdings right about here on PooCoin. It should say PogBNB LP holdings. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to see if it's locked. So these tokens are actually locked in pink lock. We can see 100% of the liquidity has been locked. And if we go to the contract, we can see that the first function that was called was renounce ownership. So how is it possible that a contract that was both locked and renounced managed to rug pull? Because your favorite influencers have been telling you forever that if a token is renounced and locked, that you are 1000% safe, which is not the case at all. It may be in many instances, but there are many instances where that is not true, because a lot of these developers are using, we've renounced the contract, we've locked liquidity as these big marketing ploys, when in reality that is not the case. So what we're going to be looking at here is just kind of scanning through the contract and showing you guys how you can actually do the same yourself to see what is going on behind closed doors. And the reason why this happens is because of investor ignorance to understanding this smart contract solidity language. And it's because it's almost gatekept by these developers who are launching these malicious contracts. So it's my intention here today to reduce the barrier to entry to understanding what a scam is and how it actually happens. I'm going to be making full tutorials on Solidity for beginners and things of that nature. But for today, right now, we're just going to be looking over how you can detect these things for yourself. So we're going to go over to the POG contract. Obviously, you can go to find that if you're on PooCoin, just click right here. It's going to bring you over to BSC scan, and it's going to bring you to right here in this contract tab. You're going to go to code, and then it will bring you here. So I'm actually not going to look through it right through here. I've copied and pasted it over into Remix just for the sake of being able to see more at once. So it's going to be easier for me to show you guys what's going on. So as we can see, just at the top of the contract here, we're not really going to look into this too much. Like I said, I'm going to be making another video on how to actually read through a token contract fully. Right now, we're just going to be looking for more specific things. So we can see that this is an ERC20 token. If we scroll down, we can just see some of the more basic functions. We can see that the contract is ownable, so that basically means that this contract can have an owner. And we can see that it's setting the owner to the message sender. Anytime you see in a smart contract, anything that says message sender, message.sender, or anything of that nature, all that basically means is the person who's calling the function. So let's just say I'm sending 10 tokens to my friend. In that instance, I would be the message.sender. So you're going to see that all of the time through smart contracts if you're just looking through them. In this instance, when the developer deploys the contract, it's going to set the owner of the contract to the message.sender or the actual person who's deploying the contract, right? So don't need to worry too much about this. The only other thing that I would really look at is, again, owner. So it's returning underscore owner. Underscore owner is the owner of the contract, and then only auth. This is a modifier. So a modifier is basically something that you can create a requirement for. So think of a modifier as an authorization key. So essentially imagine it being a badge that you have to show to the smart contract showing who you are, and then it will allow you access. So it's saying require the owner to be the message.sender. So basically it's saying the person who's calling the function needs to be the owner. Hope I explained that simply enough. And then we can see there's a function called renounce ownership. So this is not technically, this is an actual ownership renounce function. It's setting the owner of the contract to the 0 address, which is essentially an address that no one will ever be able to touch, meaning that this contract is owned by no one. This contract is quote unquote renounced. So that's not where the problem lies in the contract here. Where the problem lies is something that I'm going to show you in a moment, but this actually means that yes, the ownership of the contract is renounced. We're going to scroll through here and we're going to kind of go towards the bottom. If you see anything that says library, you can kind of just skip over that. You're not really looking too much into that. What you're really looking for is the meat and potatoes of the contract, which you will find when you see contract, and then it'll show you the contract name is IERC20 ownable base token. So that basically just means it's an ERC20 token and it is ownable. So what we can see when we start looking through the actual contract itself, which is obviously everything below this line where it is indented, we can see a few different functions. Obviously the name, the symbol, that's like obviously the name and the symbol. We're going to see decimals, total supply, balance of. These things you can sort of just skip over. These main functions at the top, you're not really looking for anything malicious in these. Sometimes there could be. The chances of it are very slim. What we're really looking for is something that might be called mint or airdrop or something of that nature. Okay, so in this instance, underscore mint. If I look at where underscore mint is being called, the only time it's being called is in the constructor, which is basically just like what's happening. The constructor basically means what is happening when the contract is deployed. So that's not really a red flag. That's basically saying the dev has minted the initial supply. Not a problem at all. Now, what we can see down here is open airdrop, and a lot of these functions are where the malicious intentions begin. And in this instance, I can see right off the bat that this is the scam function that allowed them to rug pull. So you can see that this is a function called open airdrop, which investor would just simply assume that this function would be, okay, this is the dev airdropping people tokens. That's a normal thing. That's something that happens within a lot of contracts for devs to give bags to who knows, whatever. It's not something that's typically a super malicious thing. So what I'm looking for when I see a function like this, whether it's an airdrop function or a minting function, or maybe even it might be a hidden mint function, is what's actually happening. So this is an external function. So what we can see here is function open airdrop, and then it gives you a bunch of parameters. So this is what, when you go on BSC scan, for anyone who has called a function on BSC scan before, if I go to the open airdrop function, it's basically saying token A, token B, upgrade to, new implementation, new implementations. So there's 5 different parameters. If we go on here, you'll see token A, token B, upgrade to, new implementation, new implementation. So there's 5 parameters in here. And basically that's what the developer or the deployer needs to input to call this function. And it is external. External basically meaning that a dev can go on to BSC scan, or whether they're like whatever environment they're deploying in, and actually call this function outside of the contract. Now, where the maliciousness of this contract comes in is right here. So we can see that require message sender equals trustee. And now we're thinking, who is the trustee? What does that mean? Like I haven't seen that in the contract anywhere, because I thought the person calling the function needs to be the owner. But in this instance, it's the trustee. So what actually is the trustee? If I do Command F, so I'll do Command F. That's just something on Windows, it's Control F. Mac, it's Command F. And I'll type in trustee. What is that? Oh, address. So that means there's a wallet address or a contract address called trustee. And if I find the next instance of trustee, okay, so it's the service fee receiver. Trustee equals service fee receiver. Who is the service fee receiver? Oh, that's being set by the developer. So basically what's happening here is the developer, when they deploy the contract, is calling these set of parameters, one of them being the service fee receiver. And then what's happening is it's setting the trustee to the service fee receiver. So basically what has happened is the developer has just created a new owner in the contract. I hope everyone is following along so far who may not have this sort of experience. So again, a constructor is basically what is happening when a contract is deployed. A developer needs to input a name for the token, a symbol for the token, the amount of decimals a token has, the total supply of the token, and then in this instance, the service fee receiver. So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to hide it and tell you that this is the fee address or the tax receiver. And basically what they're doing is they're setting this trustee to the service fee receiver. And then when we come down to see where trustee is being called, what's happening here? Token B equals token A equals token A. So basically it's setting token B to token A and then setting token A to token A. It's making this essentially redundant. And then setting token A to token B, which is now just token A. So this is all just like they're trying to just confuse you here, make you think you don't really know what's going on. This is just basically a roadblock for people who don't know Solidity. And then obviously we can see upgrade to new implementation, new implementations. These again are just smoke screens the developer is throwing. All of this is just nonsense. This is it's not real. It's a smoke screen. Because if I go and see this function, upgrade to a new implementation, new implementations. Anytime you see this, question it. Because what is a new implementation when you're airdropping someone tokens? What does that mean? I've never heard that term before. If you've never heard the term before, you should probably question it. Maybe ask a question in the chat. Maybe DM the dev. See kind of what's going on in that instance. Because it will be able to tell you a lot. So if we actually look at what's happening here in this function, like I said, it's an external function. It requires the person calling the function from BSC scan. I have to be the trustee to call this function. And then it's basically setting T owned. This means token owned of token B to whatever they want times 10 times underscore decimals. So this right here is basically just converting the token amount into way. That's something that might be a bit more advanced for someone who doesn't really know Solidity, but just sort of ignore this part. So basically what's happening here is it's setting the number of tokens owned by this token B address to whatever this returns. So upgrade to new implementation, new implementations. Like I said, this is sort of just a smoke screen. The developer could just put in one of these as, you know, a billion or a trillion tokens or whatever, and then this will just set it to this. What's happening here is this is essentially allowing the developer to mint an infinite amount of tokens, since there is no limit on what the developer can mint. So what we might see here, and what we would hope to see here, is a require statement allowing the developer to only airdrop a certain number of tokens, but this isn't an actual airdrop function. This is just a hidden mint. And we can actually see that if we go on here, if we go on to BSC scan, we can see the last function that was called was this open airdrop function. And we can go to decode the input data. So we go to more details and we go decode input data. Yeah, so you can see here upgrade to and new implementations were just not even called. They were not even set. The only thing the developer set was this new implementation. So like I said, what we can see here is that this is essentially just a hidden mint function, and technically speaking, could also be a hidden blacklist function, because it's basically just setting the amount of tokens owned at that wallet address to this amount. I hope everyone enjoyed today's video. If I helped you learn how to not get scammed in the future going forward, drop a like down below and join the chain Telegram in the description. You will find all of the latest YouTube videos in there, and you will also find any new projects that we are working on and tools for you to use going forward. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.